Ron Lawrence, and I'd like to welcome you to the first half of Part 4 in the 7-part informational brain training video series, Mental Concentration versus Mental Focus. In Part 4, we talk about the phenomenon of mental focus. Specifically, we're interested in dynamic mental focus, and if you'll recall what we discussed in Part 2 of this series, we define dynamic mental focus as shown here. Notice the emphasis on 3 concepts, those of consciously determined, process, and significant spans of time. Also, remember that you concentrate on a task in the present moment, but you focus on a goal with a goal in mind. Take a moment to read the 2 quotes featured here so that you may better understand the philosophical training path down which we're about to travel. Mental focus is the process of taking all your current abilities, gathering them all together, aiming them as one unified force in a specific direction, and setting off in that direction, getting better and better at it day by day. Whereas practice and mastery at attention control is the key to building powerful mental concentration is the key to building better mental focus through the acquisition of expert control over thought. Thought control is emotion control, because as goes a thought, so goes emotion. That can easily be confirmed by paying attention to the way you feel emotionally in any given moment and tracking that feeling back to a thought you were thinking just prior to that feeling. Most people are thoroughly unaware that they feel the way they do because they think the way they do. When you train yourself to forge and shape your own thoughts, you literally determine how you feel emotionally. And because those self-made emotions flow through your central nervous system repeatedly, you begin to rewire your brain, displacing old useless thoughts, emotions, and urges, reconditioning your central nervous system to the degree that your brain and body begin to move you in the direction of your objectives, even when you're not thinking about it. The natural result of dedicated thought control training for better mental focus leads inevitably to iron willpower. Why? Because thought control is the equivalent of self-control. The better you become at the former, the better you are at the latter. Since dynamic mental focus is our chief aim, I'll go over some points about what's required, how to lay the stable foundation for increasing proficiency at mental focus. Of course, as we've strenuously emphasized, you must become at least basically proficient at mental concentration because you must have control over your attention to be familiar with your natural ability to act, indeed to live, independently of noisy and persistent thoughts and urges. In training for dynamic mental focus, you will totally change your understanding of thought, thereby transforming your relationship with thought. You are going to spend plenty of time fine-tuning your thought control skills, which only increases the mental concentration skills you already possess. Mental focus training demands that you be ready to think toward thought itself as though it were simply a tool rather than see it as your own intimate personal voice. If you can think, there must be a thinker behind the thought. Not every thought you think is important. In fact, most thoughts you think hold no real value and are just mechanical repetitions of things you think all the time. From this point forward, you will begin fashioning new ideas that will hold great value. Clarity of thought is the central premise behind dynamic mental focus and requires you to learn how to craft a clear, detailed vision of what you want to do, who you want to become, and what you want to have in your life, and even the kinds of people you genuinely want to keep company with. In order for an idea to be clear, you have to first be able to hold it on the stage of your imagination in order to craft it, to sculpt it. In order to bring a clear idea to fruition, you must not only be able to hold it on the stage of your imagination in order to sculpt it, but once it's been forged, you must be able to keep it center stage in your heart and mind for days, weeks, months, even years if necessary, in obstinate defiance of distracting people and circumstances. If you train properly, you're going to find that the most empowering skill you acquire is the ability to be still, to chill out, and quietly observe the reality of what happens in your mind. In dynamic mental focus training, the primary tool in your arsenal is that of thought control. In order to properly master the power of thought, to put it to use for your benefit, you will need to tap into your natural ability to creatively affect thought, to build it, disassemble it, rearrange it, and fill it with whatever feeling and richness you need to make it vivid and meaningful so that you can put it to work as a tool. Just as any master craftsperson wants to be well familiar with the tools of their trade, so should you be with the tool of thought. We define thought as the seemingly endless series of mental impressions in the brain that take the form of expressive images, sounds, and feelings, whether involuntary or voluntary, purposefully formed or unplanned reactions to stimuli. In becoming familiar with the tool of thought, we want to zero in on some specific aspects that are of value when it comes to dynamic mental focus. Thought can convey a very real, three-dimensional sense of reality within the central nervous system. We can feel, hear, taste, touch, and smell the content of a thought. Thought can be involuntary, a conditioned mechanical mental phenomenon requiring no conscious effort, which for the most part it tends to be with most human beings. Fortunately, thought can also be voluntary and creative. We can become masters of its power in a way that reshapes our own self as well as our environment. Within the human mind, the spectrum of thought can be reshaped so that the thought patterns are unified to move a person toward a specific destiny without inner conflict or self-contradiction. And thought can be used to reprogram the vast subconscious mind so that we do not have to work so hard each and every day in a tiring struggle for success. I'd like to zero in for a moment on the three-dimensional synthetic reality aspect of thought. As subjective creatures, every thought we have flows through our central nervous system and has some form of effect. The fact is, our thoughts feel real to us. Thoughts can contain imagery, sound, texture, smell, and we can even taste things in thought. Friend, I cannot stress the importance of your taking the time to consider the profound depth of the following fact, because it is the pivotal insight that will radically transform your relationship to thought so that you can begin to use it as a tool rather than be used by it all day long, every day, like most other human beings. When your attention is immersed in a thought, the experience feels real. So much so that you can literally forget where you are and what you are doing. You can even forget that you exist in the present moment. You lose yourself in a thought. When you are not in control of your attention, whatever thought you think, you become that thought. When you are not in the driver's seat at that moment consciously, you cannot tell the difference between the synthetic reality of the content of the thought and the actual reality of the moment. This fact is easily demonstrable by the experience of daydreaming. Anytime you are not controlling your attention, every thought that you entertain is one degree or another of daydreaming. It feels real. It seems like your own voice, like your own self doing the thinking. But with training, you'll discover that is not the case. Only when you are in active, conscious, present moment, willful control of your attention are you in a psychological position to properly use thought as a tool for mental focus. In the second half of Part 4, which you can watch next, I'll finish up by continuing our discussion on the nature of thought itself as a tool for use in developing dynamic mental focus, including involuntary versus voluntary thought, obtaining a unified mindset, and making your subconscious mind into your ally so that you don't have to work so hard for success.